I never imagined my life would feel this empty, or that it could suddenly feel so alive again. My name is Margaret, though most people call me Maggie. At 64, I had grown accustomed to the rhythms of a quiet life. Mornings spent tending to my garden, afternoons with my nose buried in books, and evenings steeped in the familiar warmth of my modest home. After my husband David passed 10 years ago, routine became my shield, a way to protect myself from the grief and the unpredictability of life. I had built walls around my heart, walls I believed were permanent. Then Liam appeared. He was 27, bright-eyed and effortlessly magnetic, with a presence that seemed to make the air around him lighter. I met him at the community center, where I volunteered to lead reading sessions for local children. Liam was there on an internship, organizing events and helping with the kids, and from the very first day, I noticed how naturally he moved through the room, how he laughed, genuinely listened, and seemed to notice details others overlooked. At first, I told myself it was harmless. He was young, ambitious, and full of energy, everything I had long since left behind. I could mentor him, I thought, and nothing more. Yet, as days turned into weeks, I began to notice the subtle ways our interactions lingered, the way his eyes met mine a little longer than necessary, the soft inflection in his voice when he spoke to me, even the accidental brushes of hands when passing books. I found myself anticipating these moments, counting them like secret treasures. I tried to rationalize my feelings. It's impossible. He's young. I'm old. And yet, impossibility never stopped the heart. Every conversation left me unsettled, my mind spinning with emotions I hadn't dared feel in decades. I felt the stirrings of desire, of curiosity, and of fear. Fear that I was crossing a boundary I shouldn't, that I was walking a line between caution and recklessness. Even my friends began to notice. My sister remarked once over tea, "Maggie, you seem different lately, happier somehow." I laughed it off, attributing it to the spring weather or perhaps the library work, but the truth was harder to conceal. Liam had awakened something in me I had thought long gone. The central conflict was clear, even if I wasn't ready to name it. I was caught between the comfort of my carefully ordered life and the dangerous thrill of something forbidden. Liam was young, vibrant, and undeniably alluring, and I, an older woman shaped by grief, loss, and restraint, found myself drawn to him in ways that defied logic. By the time I realized how deep this attraction ran, there was no simple path forward. My emotions had already set a course, and the more I tried to resist, the more persistent they became. Something had shifted, subtly at first, and then irrevocably. My quiet life, once predictable and safe, was now poised on the edge of change, and I had no idea if I could step back, or if I even wanted to. The first weeks of our growing closeness were a delicate dance, a tug-of-war between desire and restraint. I noticed the little things about Liam, the way his eyes lingered when I spoke, the subtle tilt of his head when he laughed, the unspoken attentiveness in the way he listened. At first, I dismissed them as imagination, products of a mind desperate for excitement, but the evidence was undeniable. Every encounter left me unsettled, my pulse quickened, and my thoughts strayed far beyond the safe boundaries I had constructed. One afternoon, as we arranged books in the children's section of the library, Liam leaned closer than necessary while pointing out a misplaced volume. Our shoulders brushed, and the contact sent an unexpected jolt through me. I pretended to focus on the task, but the warmth of his touch lingered on my skin long after he stepped back. I realized with both thrill and guilt that I was drawn to him in ways I couldn't rationalize. Our conversations deepened. We shared fragments of our lives, the dreams he nurtured, the doubts he carried, the loneliness he masked behind easy charm. And I, in turn, revealed things I had long kept to myself, regrets, fears, the ache of a life tempered by loss. There was a magnetic honesty between us, an intimacy I hadn't experienced in decades, yet with it came a gnawing fear. This is dangerous. He's so young. I shouldn't feel this way. One rainy evening, after a library event, Liam offered to drive me home. The streets glistened under the streetlights, wet from the sudden downpour, and the quiet of the car amplified every heartbeat. His hand brushed mine on the gear shift, and the electric thrill of that touch left me breathless. I wanted to pull away, to remind myself of the impossibility of our connection. But I didn't. My body betrayed my mind, responding with a clarity I had long forgotten. The tension became harder to ignore each day. I found myself thinking of him at odd moments, walking through my garden, washing dishes, or reading alone in the living room. I chastised myself for these thoughts, for the excitement I felt at his laughter or the way his eyes met mine. And yet, no amount of self-rebuke could silence the growing pull. Even small gestures, once innocent, began to feel charged. A lingering glance across a crowded room, a touch that lasted a second longer than necessary, a shared joke with undertones of familiarity. All of it compounded the internal battle raging within me. I felt exhilaration and terror in equal measure, aware that I was stepping into forbidden territory yet unable to resist. By the end of that week, the realization hit me with a force I couldn't deny. My life, once comfortably predictable, had shifted irrevocably. Liam wasn't just a distraction or a fleeting infatuation. He had become a presence that unsettled every carefully measured part of me. The boundary I had relied upon to maintain order and propriety had dissolved, leaving me teetering on the edge of something far more profound and far more dangerous than I had anticipated. It happened on a quiet evening that should have been ordinary. I had invited Liam over under the guise of reviewing plans for the upcoming children's reading session, but both of us knew there was more lingering in the air than books and schedules. The house was warm with lamplight, the faint scent of jasmine drifting from my garden through the open window. Silence stretched between us, heavy and expectant, charged with the weight of unspoken truths. He looked at me with an intensity that made my stomach flutter and my thoughts scatter. I wanted to speak, to warn myself of the danger, but the words dissolved before they could form. He reached out, hesitated, then let his hand rest gently over mine. The contact, simple as it seemed, unleashed a torrent of emotion I hadn't felt in decades: desire, fear, longing, and an intoxicating sense of inevitability. "I can't stop thinking about you," he whispered, and the softness of his voice cut through every rational barrier I had built. My chest tightened, a mixture of exhilaration and guilt, and for the first time, I admitted the truth even to myself. I wanted him too. The moment stretched, suspended between hesitation and surrender. Our faces inched closer, breaths mingling, the room shrinking until nothing existed beyond us. When our lips finally met, it was tentative at first, a gentle testing of boundaries, then a surge of pent-up emotion that neither of us could contain. Time seemed irrelevant, the outside world fading into insignificance. For a brief, dizzying instant, I felt young again, alive in ways I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. Afterward, we sat close, hands entwined, speaking in fragments and whispers. He shared dreams, insecurities, and the loneliness he had hidden behind youthful bravado. I revealed parts of myself I had thought buried forever. The grief, the longings, the moments of my life I had kept secret. In that space, we were neither teacher nor student, neither older nor younger. We were two people stripped of pretense, navigating the treacherous yet thrilling territory of forbidden connection. Yet even as the intimacy deepened, reality pressed in with relentless weight. Age, judgment, the impossibility of sustaining this relationship in a world quick to condemn. My mind raced with questions. Can I protect him from the consequences? Am I selfish for allowing this? What will happen if the world finds out? The answers were unclear, but the pull of our connection was undeniable, a force that refused to be ignored. By the night's end, I understood something fundamental. Liam's presence had awakened a part of me I had long suppressed. Desire, excitement, vulnerability, elements of life I had assumed were behind me, were suddenly alive, blazing with clarity and intensity. The revelation wasn't merely about him or me. It was about rediscovering what it meant to feel, to risk, and to embrace the unpredictable currents of the heart. As he left that evening, I stood by the doorway, my hands still tingling from his touch, heart racing with both fear and exhilaration. The house was quiet again, but nothing inside me had returned to its former order. Something irreversible had shifted, and I knew with a mixture of dread and anticipation that life would never be the same. The days that followed were a delicate balance between exhilaration and apprehension. Liam and I continued our interactions with careful awareness of the world outside, where our connection would be judged harshly, if not outright condemned. Yet within the quiet sanctuary of shared moments, tea in the morning, long walks through the garden, laughter that echoed through empty rooms, I discovered a freedom I had thought lost forever. I learned that desire does not heed reason, and the heart often acts independently of circumstance or societal expectation. With Liam, I experienced that truth in its most vivid form. Age differences, the weight of experience, and the caution I had built around my life all mattered little when compared to the raw immediacy of emotion that surged between us. Every glance, every touch, became a language of its own, speaking truths we dared not voice aloud to anyone else. But clarity came in tandem with responsibility. I knew our bond existed in a precarious space, and I wrestled with questions that had no simple answers. Am I leading him into something he may regret? Am I betraying the memory of the life I once lived? The answers were messy, tangled in layers of morality, desire, and longing. I could not erase the consequences, but I also could not erase the vitality he had awakened in me. I began to see myself differently, not as a woman defined by age or loss, but as someone capable of profound emotion, willing to embrace the unpredictable tides of life once more. Liam's presence illuminated aspects of me that had lain dormant: spontaneity, courage, and the willingness to take risks for connection. It was terrifying and liberating at once, a paradox that left me breathless yet profoundly alive. Our interactions settled into a rhythm of honesty and reflection. We spoke openly about fears, boundaries, and intentions, knowing that each conversation required trust and vulnerability. There were moments of doubt, moments when I questioned whether our relationship could endure the scrutiny of reality. And yet every time I looked at him, saw the sincerity in his eyes, felt the warmth of his hand in mine, I was reminded that life's richest experiences often emerge from its most improbable circumstances. In the quiet evenings, alone after he left, I would reflect on the journey I had undertaken, not only with him, but with myself. I realized that our connection was not simply a rebellion against age or expectation. It was a rediscovery of my own capacity to feel, to risk, and to embrace life fully. I understood that love and desire are not constrained by the calendars we follow or the labels society imposes. Yes, I am 64 and he is 27. The difference is undeniable. The challenge is real, and the world unforgiving. Yet, in the space we carve for ourselves, I have found something extraordinary. A reminder that even in the later chapters of life, the heart remains capable of surprise, exhilaration, and profound connection. As I stand in my garden, sunlight warming my face, I carry this truth quietly, a secret both fragile and magnificent. Life has shifted, irrevocably, and I am alive to its possibilities in ways I never imagined I could be. And that, I realize, is worth every risk, every whispered confession, and every heartbeat that reminds me I am, still, fully human. Weeks had passed since that night, the night when everything shifted between Liam and me. Life outside our moments together continued as usual. Errands, quiet lunches, books lined neatly on shelves, and the familiar hum of routine. Yet within me, nothing was ordinary anymore. Every thought, every breath seemed to carry a trace of him, a reminder that my heart had ventured into territory both exhilarating and forbidden. I often found myself replaying the moments we had shared, not with regret, but with a sense of astonishment. How could a connection so improbable, so fraught with complications, feel so real? His laughter still echoed in my mind. The warmth of his hand lingered in my memory, and the intensity in his eyes had left a permanent mark on my soul. It was impossible to ignore. He had awakened in me a vitality I thought I had lost forever. Yet the clarity of our bond did not erase the challenges. Each day reminded me of the world beyond my sanctuary, the world of judgment, expectation, and the delicate ethics of desire. I questioned my own motivations, wondering if I had been selfish or reckless. And still, the truth remained undeniable. The connection we shared was transformative, not just a fleeting indulgence of temptation, but a confrontation with the core of who I was. In quiet reflection, I realized that age is merely a number, a framework society imposes, but it cannot dictate the capacity of the human heart to feel. Liam and I existed within a space defined by honesty, vulnerability, and mutual recognition of the stakes. We communicated, laughed, and confided in ways that transcended the boundaries of age, challenging me to reconsider everything I had believed about love, risk, and self-discovery. There were moments of fear, naturally, fear that this connection might unravel under scrutiny, fear that desire alone could not sustain what we had found, fear that I had opened a door that could never be closed. And yet, each time I acknowledged those fears, I also acknowledged a deeper truth. Embracing life's unexpected currents is the only way to remain fully alive. Liam had reminded me that I was not defined by age or circumstance, but by the courage to pursue connection, even when it defied logic. Standing now in my garden, sunlight streaming across the flower beds, I feel both the weight and the freedom of our choices. Life is complicated, and our story will never be simple, but it is real, and it is mine. I have learned that desire, intimacy, and vulnerability are not constrained by societal timelines. They are the pulse of being alive. Yes, I am 64, and he is 27. Our path is unconventional, fraught with challenges, yet luminous with the unexpected joys of rediscovery. And as I breathe in the morning air, I understand. The heart, no matter the years it has lived, always retains the power to surprise, to risk, and to embrace the extraordinary. Life has changed irrevocably, but I carry it with gratitude, wonder, and an openness I had long thought impossible.